Well, I'm here today with Lori Torres, who ran multifamily for Irvine Company and then decided to branch off on your own and start Parcel Pending, which all of us in the industry know very well as the locker boxes in the apartments. And just a fascinating story. I would love to just hear a little bit about kind of like your professional trajectory over the years.
Sure, thanks so much for having me. I'm thrilled to be here. And it's funny because my career started off as the receptionist in a commercial real estate company. And it was terrible. I cried, it was boring, and I kept asking, let me do more. And so I continued to advance my career, learned how to be a property manager in commercial real estate, and then I leased commercial space, which was a blast. And then I jumped to the dark side and I got into multifamily, and everyone said, oh, nobody goes from commercial to multifamily. And
it's looked down upon, right?
A little bit, I have to say. But what I loved about multifamily was that you could go into a property and you could just find money. There was money on the table everywhere, and you could make tweaks, and the rents, you could turn the rents over because your resident doesn't stay that long, and you can raise rents. And so I fell in love with the industry and the business, and so I was in it for 25 plus years, we'll say. I started when I was five. Yes,
exactly.
And really advanced my career until the point where I went to work at Irvine Company. I started there as a VP and ran a third of the portfolio. And then when I left, I was a senior VP running all of operations for 44,000 units and 1,200 employees. And the year right before I left, my final year, we did $1 billion in revenue. And so I was always proud that we hit the $1 billion number. And now they're like blown past that, and they're much bigger now. And I left my fancy corporate America job because I saw this problem at the apartment buildings around packages. And I'd go out to the properties and say, hey, tell me what's your biggest challenges. And all of a sudden people started saying, we have a package problem. People are in their pajamas shopping online. They go off to work. This is obviously before COVID. And we're inundated with packages. And I thought, I could probably solve that with technology. So I thought I would solve it for the Irvine Company, and I fully disclosed to the Irvine Company when I started working on my project. And then I realized, I can solve this for the industry. And so I quit my fancy corporate job and started
Let's pause
Parcel
there
Pending.
for a minute. So talk a little bit about the psychology. I can only imagine what your compensation looked like as a senior executive at the Irvine Company. And then literally to go to effectively zero.
No paycheck. And I was the breadwinner.
What precipitated that? I mean, tell me a little bit about the psychology that would make a person make a jump like that seems to so many people incomprehensible.
Yeah, it was crazy. And I remember when I told people I was leaving, honestly, like in their forehead would pop out the words crazy. This woman's crazy. And I had one other idea in my lifetime, a good idea, which was the little elf on the shelf that flies all around. It's not, I didn't get it. And someone else did. And someone else now today has a Macy's Day big balloon. And I don't. And so when I came up with this idea and I figured out that I could use some type of electronic box to notify residents that they could pick up their package, I thought, I have to go do this. And I got a ton of resistance. I got resistance from my husband at the time. And then my kids were like, your mom, you're crazy. That's a dumb idea. And everyone really told me every reason why I couldn't do it, but just something in my bones, I knew I had something. And sure enough, now they all think I'm a genius.
That's how it works.
After selling the company. It's funny how they think. I think there's probably about 12,000 systems out in the US and Canada, and now it's in the UK. And all of Lowe's home improvement stores put us in their building or in their stores for buy online, pick up in store. So there's thousands of lockers out there, and millions of packages are going through our lockers. I just got a text this morning from my financial advisor who sent me a picture of Parcel Pending going into her office building. So it's a great solution to a huge problem, actually.
It's amazing. And you built the company up over what period of time, and then you exited?
Yes,
right?
So I do everything fast, including talking fast. So sorry, today I do talk fast.
We're going to get a lot out of this.
I'm trying to pack it in. I grew the company in just 4.5 years to the point where we had about 175 employees. And at that point, I think we were at maybe 9,000 locations. and taking millions of packages. And then I sold the company, and then I stayed on for 2.5 years. But it was pretty fast. I never thought it would be that fast. I thought it would be about a 7-year journey.
Yeah.
And even like fundraising went fast. The sale went fast. When I sold the company, it was a 32-day close, like from letter of intent to money in the bank, which was insane. And with full due diligence by EY, it wasn't like a little bit of due diligence. It was full on.
And it was kind of a big company that bought it.
Yeah, a big company out of France. Yes, a very big company. Number 2 to Pitney Bowes. So it was Neopost. Now they've changed their name to Quadient, but a large organization. And it was a wild ride and a great ride.
So kind of going back to that first aha, and I think I want to do this. At the time that you were first kicking this around, was there anyone in your kind of sphere that was saying this might be a good idea? Was there anyone that was kind of helping you through that? Or was it more once you kind of launched that you were able to find the mentors or the guides to help you through that?
You know, Ryan, I would say that the people closest to me thought I was crazy, seriously, and people I worked with and those people. But the people that I would talk to on an airplane or, someone that I didn't really know was like, oh, I've had that idea. It's such a great idea. I never did anything with it. Like if I had $1 for every time someone said I had that idea, I'd have $1 million just from that alone. And so I knew that I really did have something.
Yeah.
And sorry, I lost you to go ahead. What was your question?
And then how did you, because at some point you had an advisory board and you had mentors along the way.
Right.
I'm just curious that whole process, because initially, you're kind of alone, right?
Yes.
In that journey. And how did you kind of attract mentors along the way that were able to help you with that?
So many amazing people helped me. It was incredible. And so, I had no idea how to fundraise. We joked at the Irvine Company, we would just go to the basement and get money when we wanted to build a new building. Like, who, needs to raise money?
There's gold bullion down there.
Right, and I didn't know how to do manufacturing. And oh, by the way, I owned a technology company, and I really didn't know much about technology.
Yeah.
But, it was incredible how many people were willing to help. And someone would say to me, hey, talk to this person, and I'd call them, and they'd say, call this person. And I just ended up with this amazing network of people that were willing to help and mentor me and advise me. And then, one time I had a small advisory board for marketing, and then another time I had to put together a board once I raised money. I did 2 rounds of fundraising.
Wow.
And so I met people that were incredible. And in the entrepreneur world, other entrepreneurs want to help you.
Yeah.
It's such a neat space because people want you to win.
Yeah.
And so I was fortunate, and a lot of people were willing to give their time for nothing. That was the other thing. People came and worked with me for nothing, no cost. And I'm like, you don't want to be paid? No, I'm just here to help. I'm like, okay. So now that I get to do that for others.
I know. Well, and I was just going to say, we benefit from that a little bit too, which I'll ask you about in a little bit. But that also speaks a little bit, I think, to this more open mind frame versus a closed mind frame. And I think in entrepreneurship, it almost requires, there are jokes and phrases around kind of a little bit of stupidity or a little bit of, like that. And I'm even thinking back to, you made the move from commercial property management, commercial leasing, which at the time were perceived as pedigreed,
sexy.
Exactly, white collar kind of stuff. And meanwhile, multifamily was definitely considered kind of the bastard stepchild at the time.
Yeah.
And then, of course, today, you fast forward, and multifamily is the darling stepchild. and it's like people forget that there was a period of time where that wasn't the case.
That's right.
And I do think at times you having that open mind frame does open you up to opportunities that you otherwise wouldn't.
It really does. And, it's funny, too, because going from commercial to multifamily, the dark side. And then I went to the even darker side, which is the vendor side. Everyone talks about, you don't want to go to the vendor side because that's really the dark side. I don't know. I'm a solution finder all day long. That's what I do. When you're in property management, your job is just to solve problems.
Yep.
And so that's what I did. And that's what I still do to this day. And but with the company, with Parcel Pending, it was just go solve a problem.
Yeah. In a big way.
Yeah, exactly.
So maybe tell me a little bit about any sort of conflicts or roadblocks you had along the way, because that entrepreneurial journey is not all, paved in gold.
No, it's the hardest thing ever.
What maybe speak to one or two of the things that you feel like you learned along the way during that process.
Sure.
Or challenges.
I'll tell you, it really was hard. Every day. I mean, that's that statement to me is kind of lame. Like, it's the hardest thing I ever did.
Yeah.
It's hard, and every day was difficult and challenging. And every day I joke with the team and say, where's the easy button? Find me this easy button, because not a day was easy. It really wasn't.
Yeah.
It was fun.
Yeah.
I was totally fired up and energized, and couldn't wait for Mondays to come when everyone's back to the office and we could get things moving.
Yeah.
Although I jokingly said every day was a Monday, even Saturdays and Sundays. So there were challenges constantly. There were multiple big challenges, and I guess the ones that I really learned from, I had a great coach, and you happen to know him because he's on the advisory board, and he actually said to me, and I've told this story a gazillion times, that you will probably have to turn over your leadership team at least once every 12 to 18 months. And I thought, what? That is insane.
Especially at the growth that you're experiencing.
Right, because we did 70% year-over-year growth for 4.5 years straight until even the fifth year when we got bought, we were still on that trajectory. And so when he said that, I thought, that is painful. Because what happens is when you're a new startup with zero revenue, what you need at $3 million is different than at 17 million and different at 35 million. And all those steps along the way, some people can scale with you and some people cannot scale with you. And so you have to be willing to make the tough calls. And I tried with, all my heart to have people exit and be okay with it and help them find something new that was right, but it just wasn't right. But that was a big challenge, is that you had to turn over your staff, and it was the right thing to do. And then I had challenges with manufacturing. I probably went to China, I don't know, I feel like a dozen times, and something would happen.
That's where the manufacturing occurred?
Yes, we manufactured in China, and there was one morning I woke up, I was telling this story earlier today, I woke up one morning and realized they have $1 million of our money, and we don't have lockers scheduled for delivery. And usually there was a cadence, and it was like, send us money, get lockers, place an order, get notified, lockers arriving. And then all of a sudden it came to a screeching halt. And that was a dark day. And, but I'll never forget, because I went into the office with my president at the time, and we strategized on a whiteboard, and we just figured out, okay, what are we going to do? Where are these shipments? How do we get them released? How do we minimize this so that who knows where this is going to go, but get what you can get. But those kind of challenges came up all the time. Or there were technology challenges that, I wanted the best customer experience any customer could have, because I came from the industry. I know what it's like to sit on that side.
You're serving your industry.
Exactly. And so if the technology was a problem, which it was in the early days, that was intense. And so, like I said, every day was a challenge, but we got through it. And so you know what you do? You put a plan in place, and you just figure it out, and you say, okay, what is our plan, and how are we going to get through this? And you can solve anything, pretty much. Maybe not cancer.
Most.
So
Irvine Company is an iconic name in the industry. I'd love to hear if you have any particular stories or lessons learned that you had while you were at that really exceptional company. And how maybe how you grew as a result of it.
It was a great experience working at the Irvine Company. I have to say, I've seen a lot of executives leave the organization and not leave with a good taste, or feel kind of issues that happen. And for me, I learned so much. And what I learned was the discipline that was in place, of whether it was about annual budgeting or financials, and making sure that every single month there was a financial review and figuring out what was working and what wasn't working, or if it was just the quality of the assets and how to maintain those assets at such a high level and high quality, or the customer service experience. Like, how do we be the best in the industry that people were willing, and they were willing to pay $300 to $500 a month more. I mean, you literally could drive down the 405 freeway and pay $300 less in rent for pretty much the same apartment. I mean, we all had toilets and kitchen sinks and refrigerators. Ours were a little fancier. But to pay that difference, what is it going to take
Yeah.
to do that. And I think that I learned is the customer experience matters so much. And so I'm highly customer centric and I'm highly sales centric.
Yeah.
Because what I also learned is that you can be in property management, but the truth is it's all about sales.
Yep.
And you there's not a day that goes by that you're not selling.
Yeah.
And so it's really important.
I remember one of our advisory board meetings was down in Orange County, and you were talking about how you can walk into an office building and you just know if it's an Irvine Company office building or
That's
not.
right. You can feel it. Definitely. It's a great company. I mean, I think I hope it'll always be a great company. And but I have wonderful memories of being there. I was treated very well, and I also got great results. And so I worked hard. I worked like a dog while I was there, but I enjoyed it, and great people. And so I will always have really fun memories. I was fortunate I got to be a big part of the new developments, and so in programming and just feedback and working very closely with the development team and running numbers with them to what kind of rents could we get. I was fortunate that I was moved into acquisitions, the worst time, 2008, but it was great. I had the fattest checkbook on the planet. I had Donald Brenn's checkbook. And so I did acquisitions for a year or a year and a half, and that was a great learning experience, and I loved it. And so I had also, not only did I just have this great experience, but I had different experiences, and I got to I really got to grow while I was there. And Ryan, it's funny because I don't have an undergraduate degree, and people would tell me you will never advance at the Irvine Company without a degree, and you're a VP and you'll never get any higher than that, and it never stopped me. I do have a degree now, and which I have a master's, which is funny because I don't have the undergraduate, but and I went back to the guy who told me that specifically, and I'm like, hey, I finally have a degree, mister, but I still advanced. But they were good to me. But I was good to them. They got great results.
And I think ultimately the results speak for themselves.
They do. The results never lie. I just said that today to one of your team members. The results don't lie.
So you've exited your company. It seems like you've exited well enough that you're kind of enjoying life at this point. You've decided, to our benefit, to be a part of our advisory board. I would love to, understand what made you decide to do it, and what have you enjoyed about participation in our advisory board?
It has been great. And so I went from workaholic to funaholic, and I am enjoying retirement, which is a weird word. That and grandma, those two words just are weird to me, but I'm both. I have the experience of both. But I've been helping entrepreneurs since I left my company, and I do a lot of, I'll do public speaking, or I'll do some type of advisory services, and I really enjoy it. And so when I met you guys, I just love you two, and I was so glad that you were interested in having me, because I do think that I can share my background, and I'll tell you when I can't help you, because there's a lot I don't know, but I have a lot of experience in the real estate business, but I also have that experience now as an entrepreneur. And so what I love about you two is really what you created from nothing, and that you've just gone at it and continued to have success in growing the company. And my hope is that I can add just a nugget here or a nugget there that can make a difference for you to continue your success.
No, I appreciate it, and we've been very fortunate because the people such as yourself who've served on our advisory board, we at times feel like we're not worthy of it, but we take that as a challenge to grow into that space.
Yeah, that's kind of nonsense talk, quite honestly. You are absolutely worthy of it, and you should. You can. I always say that I was only successful at Parcel Pending because of all the people. I could not have done it alone. There was no way. It took by the end, when I left, we had 200 plus employees. I couldn't have done it without every one of those people. And the same goes for you guys. You have to tap into whoever can help you, and people want to help you. And so take advantage when people want to help you. And whether it's, if they don't have any skin in the game, that's okay. They're choosing to help. And that's where I sit right now, is trying to help other companies and people that, want some advice. And like I said, if I can't help, then I'm not going to stay here. But if I'm adding value, I'm here.
Absolutely, lots. Well, and I think it's part of that open mind frame too, is just being able to walk through life and and recognize that we don't have all the answers and we don't know everything, and being open to those around us being able to help out, because again, there's no vested interest in your deciding to participate, but that also is it's a privilege and a responsibility on our part to be able to provide value for what you're doing.
Right.
And just as we round out, I would love to, given your background and your experience, there are a lot of people that are listening, and being able to give them any sort of advice, whether that be industry advice because you've worked in our industry for quite some time, or if that's entrepreneurial or whatever else, that would be great.
Sure. I think a few words of wisdom, maybe. As I get older, I can have words of wisdom, this aging thing. I think one of them is be willing to ask for help. It's okay to ask for help. And if more people did it, they'd probably have more success. Yeah. Another one is always have a plan. I'm such a believer, and I say this in the board meetings, like, what's the plan? And so do you have a plan to get there? And what are your numbers? But planning, it really makes a difference, I think a huge difference. And maybe the last would be, as you can, help others, because it comes back to you. And I never knew that, and I don't help others now because it comes back, because it's already been given back to me. Yeah. But I had no idea that by just being of service to other people, what rewards you get for it. Yeah. And it's amazing. And so I feel so fortunate. And I would say, someday you're going to be retired and thinking, what am I going to do? And a grandpa. And you're going to be like, what am I going to do with myself? And, help others.
Well, and you and Greg have been tremendous examples of exactly what that second half looks like.
Yeah.
So
it's pretty fun.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Well, thank you for taking the time today. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me, and thanks for all you're doing. I think you're doing great work.
Thank you.